Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wife, Janet, and we are streaming live from the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy Studio, as we do every Monday, 12:30 to 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, on my personal Facebook page and the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy YouTube site. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube site and also all the podcast forums. Go there, like them, comment on them. We really appreciate that. So today, we are super excited to have Jody Gough on our podcast today. She is a health and fitness coach, and she has a great story about how she got into that. So she's been doing it about 4 years now, and her goal is just to educate and empower women to take charge of their own health. She's got a health journey of her own that many people in healthcare share a story like hers, and I don't think we're very good in the healthcare industry about following up with patients like this. So, Jody, without further ado, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Janet.
You as well, Jody.
Shawn,
Jody,
thanks you guys.
You're welcome. Thank you for agreeing to be on, and I'm super excited to hear your story and to share it with our listeners and viewers. So go ahead and get started with your little bit of your background of how you got into health and fitness training.
Yeah, well, I had just turned 50. I actually work in the construction industry, and fitness was something that just was a natural part of my life. I was an oarsman on river rafting boats. I love long distance mountain biking. So I was really sort of getting all of my physical activity just through natural enjoyment activities. But when I turned 50, I was in the midst of buying a house and went in for my first mammogram and was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer. And I really didn't realize what that meant. You know, I had put myself through college at Seattle University. I graduated when I turned 40, and I had taken microbiology. So having a cancer diagnosis really freaked me out, like it would anyone. But I had all this really sort of insider knowledge about what the treatment was going to do to my body. So I had to do chemo and radiation surgeries and all of those things. But what happened in the midst of all that, my employer let me go, that I was with for a very long time. I lost my partner in the midst of that. And I was in the middle of buying a home in a completely different county. So I was also relocating out of where my, friends and family were. And this all happened a week after close on my house. So I was really going through a lot, but you buck up, you keep working, you get through all of those things. And it wasn't until about 4 or 5 months after treatment ended that I noticed I was gaining weight on a pretty regular basis. And my old tricks of losing weight and fitting back into my jeans weren't working. So when I had a visit with my oncologist, he informed me that post-chemo treatment will force your body to add 15 to 20 pounds, and your metabolism is shot. It's like, I was telling Shawn, it's like entering menopause overnight. You're just hit with it really hard. And all of the things that cancer tends to strip away from our lives. And it's very common to lose relationships, employment, and all of those things in your fight, in your cancer fight. But as a woman, when you are told you're also going to gain 20 pounds, that's it. That's the straw that tips you over the edge. So about 2018 and 19, I really started working on how to reset my health. And in doing that, I started doing a ton of research in the diet and fitness industry and really found even as much as I knew about how bodies work, I was really frustrated having to sift through all of the misinformation and bolstering of untruths, and finding that back to basics, core street level approach to health and wellness and diet.
Yeah, what kind of questions do you have for Jody?
So, Jody, I'm assuming that that's what put you on the journey for what you do now. So let's jump into that.
It is, yeah. Excalibur Wellness was born out of all that. Actually, Excalibur stands for the notion that that's Excalibur is what we referred to my chemo treatment as. I was scared and worried, and my sister said, let's give it a name. Let's call it Excalibur. So then post-treatment, the post-treatment trauma that you go through is actually really under it's under supported. There's a lot of struggle with cancer survivors who, you ring the bell and then they walk you out, and it's sort of like, but now what? My whole life has been decimated. What do I do? And so I was using Excalibur 2 then as a metaphor for how to reclaim my power and reclaim my life, reclaim my health. And it can apply to women who haven't gone through those kinds of losses. But as women, we do tend to give our very best and all to our partners, our kids, our parents, our siblings. And so Excalibur is sort of a metaphor for taking back just a little slice of self-care and self-love that we need. And Excalibur isn't just about hitting the mat and making sure you're getting your protein. It's also really has to do with a mind, body, and spirit approach. And I'm reluctant to even bring that up sometimes on my website because it's such a trendy thing to discuss. But what I learned over the last several years is that you can really approach it from a street level. When we talk about mind, body, and spirit, you don't have to be up in the ether. And it's really not all, sparkly and divine. There really are simple approaches to busting through some of the blockages that prevent us from even moving forward in our health journey. And I know that a lot of women deal with that. So, so I'm excited to help them.
Yeah, I think you touched on a real important point that our beliefs really make a difference as what our outcomes can be. And in our industry, we talk about a thing called placebo effect. And really, if you think about it, it's really if you believe in an outcome or have faith, for example, like your doctor, do you believe in what your doctor is telling you? Do you have faith in their knowledge? And then usually your outcome's better. And I think that has to do a lot with how our brains work. It's if we believe that we're going to get better, or if we believe that we can achieve something, and obviously we're going to find steps to get to that. So that's a really important, I think, point in health. And like you say, it's not like we're going to some special place. It's just where our brain takes us on that journey of achieving our health journey and goals.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Really, really having that intention and understanding of, and it doesn't have to be a belief in what's going on externally, but really too tapping into kind of the stuff that women tell ourselves. I can't speak for men, but I know that in my own journey, my friends, and all of the women that I've reached and that have responded to me, it's really there's a lot of stuff going on our brains, especially as we enter menopause. It gets even more accentuated where, we're putting on weight. We're not sure why. The industry's telling us stuff. It's not always true. Irritability, lack of sleep, night sweats, depression, sadness, aches and pains. And all of a sudden, just when we're really starting to come into this part of our lives that's supposed to be great, right? We raised the kids, they're off on their own. And now all of a sudden our bodies are sort of turning on us. And so it's really nice to be able to support women in a way that helps them take those negative limiting thoughts out of our brain about what's happening to us and sort of shift it into something positive and remind women how amazing we are, how strong we are, how much we go through physiologically our entire lives, and that this is just the pinnacle moment where now we can take all of our knowledge, all the strength, all of the goodness that we've been sending out to everyone else, and now we can return it to ourselves. And that's really powerful. That's a lot of energy when you think about all of the people that women support as we're growing up as mothers and sisters and daughters and all of those things.
So what's the first thing when a woman signs up? What's the first thing you go over them with? I know it's probably very, very personal and specific to each individual, but what's the first thing you like to address?
What I like to do, first of all, is talk to them about, I get to know them just a little bit personally, what their work is, what their sort of things they enjoy doing, just personally, what their hobbies are. But then we get into food. And I like to talk about food because everyone's pantry looks completely different. It depends on your ethnicity, your culture, likes and dislikes, allergies, all of that stuff. So I really like to talk to them about where they're at in their food journey. And a lot of women are, tired of eating shakes. They're, again, the diet and health industry have been so successful at sending out misinformation that a lot of women are really delighted to hear that some of the foods that they felt they needed to cut out are actually really good for them. So that's just talking about their pantry is a huge revelation to them. And I've had women scratch the protein and diet shakes and get off all that stuff and go back to actually chewing and helping them understand what carbs do, why it's important to add healthy fats, salt, and how salt in our diets has evolved over time. And again, just really getting down back to basics with that. The second thing that I like to do is talk to them about the things they tell themselves about their bodies. And then I walk them through a motivational, it only takes a few minutes. It's just a really short process, but it's super powerful. So all the negative things that we say and think about our bodies and about ourselves versus all of the accomplishments and everything that we've achieved in our lives. And that's a very emotional process. It's very powerful. And women are shocked to see on paper what they've been telling themselves versus what they're capable of. It's a huge breakthrough.
Yeah, it's so important to be optimistic instead of pessimistic and focus on the victories instead of, some of the defeats. And there's so many different ways to do that. Now, one thing you talked about is shakes. And I think we've talked about this on this podcast quite often. And, I've even got good friends that drink a shake a day and it works for them and it does work for some people. But, I mean, the only time I drink a shake is when I am like depleted of calories, and because I've had a super long bike ride, a 5 hour, 6 hour bike ride, and I'm depleted of calories, and I need to pack as many calories as I can into 16 ounces, and
Right.
I mean, seriously. So you put
Yeah.
peanut butter
And
in them.
just get it down. Yeah.
Yeah, and so people will talk about shakes. They'll say, "Well, I just have a shake a day. But it's healthy stuff. It's acacia berries and it's some blueberries and it's Greek yogurt and it's some protein powder." I'm like, "Yeah," and you just talked about 500 calories already.
Right.
So I'm a big
Right.
believer. And you mentioned something about chewing, I believe, or whatever. I believe there's a big
Right.
we get
Yeah.
satisfied by chewing our food, and it's really easy if you're drinking our calories, and not just in shakes, but obviously in soda pop and in beer or wine. It's easy to overdrink our calories. It's a lot more difficult to
Yeah.
overeat, especially real food.
Even the sports drinks are surprisingly loaded. I mean, unless you're an Olympic athlete, you really don't need that stuff. It's just sort of
Yep.
sabotaging you a little bit. And I think that some of the shakes, you're right, Shawn, absolutely. I mean, I've definitely done that before where I've gone through a little period where, I just want to sort of reset my nutrition a little bit. And I'll get shakes and have those for a couple of weeks once a day. But it's really just to kind of reset myself. I think there are some diets out there, though, that really shake is the main part of the diet. And
Yeah.
then you get
Right.
like something little to chew at the end of the night or something. So that's
Yeah.
sort of more what I was referring. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, the only time I have any caloric kind of drink is usually post long bike rides, because you just don't. You can over drink calories so easily, and
Yeah.
e- even if you are an athlete, I've found that in myself is that I can still before, those calories can add up even if you're burning a lot of them.
For sure. Yeah, for
So
sure.
tell us about some of the fitness things that you do for women, Jody.
What I love about all of the research going through the lockdown gave me a ton of time to
I can
really
hear you. Yep.
fine tune. Okay, good. To really fine tune how women can exercise. It's low impact with light hand weights. You can build up over time and do more, but again, it's not just the nutrition that's back to basics, it's the exercise that's back to basics. I can't tell you how many women I've run into who say, I don't want to run, jog, I don't want to do any hopping, skipping, or jumping.
Yeah.
And women have sort of reasons for that that are personal, right? So just low impact with a little cardio and light hand weights. And what I've done for clients is I have over a list of over 60 exercises that provide exactly that, including like 8 different exercises that are focused on abs and core that don't force you to kind of have that neck strain. I know some people they'll just turn the whole workout away because of one thing.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do at Excalibur is really make it easy for you to just step onto your mat and get to work. And then this workout guide also allows them to sort of keep track of. So what I do during our first workout is we spend about 45 minutes doing just a couple reps of each one of those exercises together. And then women can actually see and keep track in this guide of what they were able to do. And then what they kind of struggled with, but it won't take very long for them to be able to do it, to add it to their routine. And then there's more places for them to keep notes, but really for them to be intentional and see for themselves, with me just guiding them through it, what you actually are capable of more than you think you are. And sometimes we block that in that limiting of belief
Well, I think one thing about exercise, or anything for that matter, is consistency. And I know some people, when you're starting from nothing, something is better than nothing. But some people will say, well, light weights and, moderate intensity cardio is just not going to do a lot. Well, it's going to do a lot to somebody that never even started. So
Right.
I think sometimes with
Right.
exercise, we can scare people away when we go to really intense or really long exercises right away, because then they just don't do
Yeah.
them. So consistency of something that you can do regularly is what's important.
For sure. Yeah. It's I've got a couple of private groups on Facebook where I've got about 6 weeks of workouts. They're a half an hour long, and they start out really simple like that. And then we just add over time. We work up to burpees and boy push-ups and stuff like that. So, but it can be daunting. The health industry is, how many billions of dollars does it make a year? And so many different coaches, and it's intimidating, and the gym can be intimidating. So, what I was doing is really, and it was part of my own journey too. When I came out of treatment and was trying to find a way to get healthy myself, I wanted someone to keep me accountable. So that's what I try and do in Excalibur Wellness, is be there with you. I'm working out with you and showing you that a regular person, I'm not ripped, is going to be hitting the mat with you, and we're going to talk about it over the course of our time together. And and just really providing that female to support. I get what you're going through. I didn't get the benefit of going through menopause over a 5 to 10 year period. I was hit with it overnight, and all of the symptoms that come with that. So I have a really keen understanding of what it is women are struggling with. And I have a huge heart for that. It's brutal. It can be really bad, but that low impact with hand weights, that strength training, boy, we can't emphasize that enough. That eliminates so many symptoms of menopause, arthritis, fibromyalgia. Strength training is really super beneficial for even giving us more energy, right? That's a paradoxical thing where I'm too tired to work out, but if you did, you'd feel great.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We always talk about exercise is the best antidepressant ever invented.
I think sometimes it's just getting your clothes on.
Yeah, getting motivated. Right.
I mean, sometimes you just got to lay those things out, so it happens.
Well, that's one of the things that
See, Janet gets it.
Yeah, and we both do. And one of the things is that's one of the things that I think what you've done when going back to basics is you've tried to create the fewest barriers possible for people to work out and eat right. Because like you said earlier, the gym, it can be intimidating. So all your workouts are at home. So that already creates a barrier. That already prevents a barrier, prevents somebody to have to go to the gym, which is another barrier. Yeah. They can do it in their house. They don't have to, somebody else doesn't have to be watching them in the gym. So, eliminate those barriers. Also, when you work out at home, you don't have to dress like you would if you were going to the gym. You can do it in usually different kind of clothes. So eliminating those barriers is so important because at the end of the day, especially if we work out, we have decision fatigue, and you can or you've already made 100 decisions throughout the day, and the last decision you want to make is, are you going to work out or are you not? So you have to make it so there's as little barriers as possible.
For sure. Yeah. And I like my workouts too, where you do, we're not counting reps and sets over and over. We're doing one exercise for 1 minute. You do your best. You can be the gal who just rips through it, or maybe you're struggling with that exercise and you can only get a couple of reps in. That's great. You've got a minute to correct your form, make it right, and then move on to the next exercise. Then you can do that whole set again as a circuit. So trying to eliminate too the boredom that might come with it sometimes,
Well, I
doing the
like the
same stuff
idea.
over and over.
Yeah, and I like the idea of, it sounds like you're trying to simplify things. So you just do whatever you can for a minute. And
Yep.
it makes it a lot, because believe it or not, you know, if you have to add one more step where you have to count number of sets and count reps, it just adds another element, another barrier to working out. I mean, and I can tell you, because I've been there. It's like, oh, today I got to do 3 sets instead of 2. Dang it. Whereas,
Yeah.
if you just hash it all out in a minute, do as many as you can, I think it's a lot. You can have a lot more consistent workouts.
The other thing I created in Excalibur is through all of my research, there are some basic facts about our body, and I've got them listed out here. And some of the basic facts about our body and what our body really, this is again, street level, back to basics, what our body needs. Practicing deep breathing to lower our cortisol. And cortisol is that hormone that settles in around our midsection.
Yeah.
So practicing deep breathing, hydration, sleep, improving the quality of our food, obviously, physical movement, sunlight, non-energy nutrients, so vitamin, minerals, your amino acids, and physical touch and community. So what I did at Excalibur is I sort of took all those things and built them into an acronym, and I call it the D.R.I.F.T method. So the D.R.I.F.T method is it comprises all of those 8 things so that you can remember it easily. So the D.R.I.F.T method starts with D for declarations, and that's where we really take a minute to think about what we want. Again, Janet's note about the power of positive thinking, and yours too, Shawn. What are we really thinking about, and really picture ourselves doing the work. And in doing that, you can add some breath work and just sit with yourself for a few minutes. Just,
Yeah.
That's so important. So setting our declarations, you can write it in a journal, you could scribble it on my Excalibur Wellness workout guide, whatever you want to do to keep track of where you're at every day, making those declarations. Rise and shine, that's the R. So rise and shine is getting up and having your first thing be to hydrate and sit in your workout space. Again, picturing yourself doing those moves. Intake is obviously nutrition, but it's not just food. It's like you stated, Shawn, it's all the drinks that are available to us now. Coffees, cold coffees, sports drinks, sodas, and the sizes, and alcohol, and all this stuff. So intake is I. F is obviously fitness, and then T is tuck in. So the D.R.I.F.T method really encompasses all of the things that we want to do, and emphasizing getting outside and walking is fantastic. Walking can really help you a lot. And then you can even work up from there. And then when you come in all warm and yummy from a great walk, then sling some weights around, or drop and do some leg lifts or whatever while you're nice and warmed up. But I like the D.R.I.F.T method because it encapsulates everything that we need into one easy to remember word and format. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I never heard that. Quickly, go through that again. What D.R.I.F.T means?
The D.R.I.F.T method, it encapsulates all of the necessary physical aspects of healthy living. So it's D for declarations, R for rise and shine, which is setting our intention and hydrating. I for intake, which includes food and drink. F is for fitness, and T is for tucking in.
I love
it. That sleep schedule is so important too. It's amazing. We sleep with the TV on, with our phones next to us, and all of that. And some experts even talk about we've got these phones. Everyone has these great phones, right? Change your alarm to something beautiful as opposed to something really sort of annoying
Yeah, right.
and awful. And I've even got a series of videos in one of my private groups where I talk about if you don't like the gym and that's holding you back, carve out a space in your home where your mat is always laid out and your little hand weights are always right there.
Yep.
Spend a day on a weekend, especially in this crappy weather. Spend a day on the weekend really clearing out your room, getting yourself organized, and it could take a couple of weeks even while you're really trying to establish space and clarity, writing down, in your declarations, which is D in the D.R.I.F.T method, really writing down, what do you want? Are you trying to get fit and tone? Are you trying to lose weight? How much? Are you just trying to keep flexible? Are you already in great shape, but you just want to join with a group or stop going to the gym? You want to have more time on your hands. Whatever it is, write those things down so that you can see on paper. Writing things down just makes a huge difference, and it's a mental trick too for remembering what you want. And there's so much going on in our lives in the world today. It's really important to get it on paper. You can't emphasize that enough.
I agree.
Yeah.
If you don't write it down, it's just a dream. It's not a goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's important to write our goals down or what our expectations are. So for sure. So Jody, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. As we wind this podcast up, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to find me is on Facebook, Excalibur Wellness. I do have a public page, and that is Jody Gough. My email is jodygough@hotmail.com. So you could reach out to me primarily on Facebook. I would love to hear from you. All of my contact information is there. And I'd love to hear from you. Excalibur Wellness has reached over 30,000 women. And around the world, I talk to women out of Australia, New Zealand, the UK. And I would love to hear from you if you just need to get started and really need help with motivation, and you want to start from scratch, and you want to put all the dieting stuff aside and just really have a new foundation and understanding for real health and back to basic stuff. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for being on, Jody. Thank you for sharing our story. I think you've really helped achieve our goal of educating and empowering people to take charge of their own health. So I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for finding me, Shawn. I appreciate it.
And listeners and viewers, please tune in for our midweek podcast on Thursday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Right here again, we will have Dr. Courtney Sanfelice. She's a pharmacist, and we've had her on a couple times already. She's going to be talking about the benefits of L-glutathione. It's a supplement that's been popular in the news a lot lately, so you don't want to miss out on this one. Tune in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Thank you for listening and watching.